Hello, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Smart, and I am a retired middle school teacher and the author of the book titled What Makes a Bully. I also write a column under the heading Get Smart, where I discuss bullying issues. So if you have a question that you think I may be able to answer, please reach out to me. But now, it is my honor and my privilege to read another story to you titled Peter Rabbit. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited. Peter Rabbit by Beatrice Potter, illustrated by Charles Santori. So let's get to the first page. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in the pie by Mrs. McGregor. Ooh, my. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I'm going out." So mother is going out, and she gave her children instructions. Do you always listen to your mother or your parents? Then old Mrs. McGregor took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were good little bunnies. They went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden, and he squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuces, some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling sick, he went to look for some parsley. But around the end of a cucumber frame, whom do you think he ran into? Who do you think he ran into? That's right, Mr. McGregor. Oh my, what do you think is going to happen? Well, let's read and see. Let's continue with the reading. Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving his rake. "Stop, thief!" he yelled. Peter was most frightened and rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. Oh my, look at Peter losing his shoe. Oh, and look at that big rake. Mr. McGregor is not happy. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears. Oh, he's crying. But his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Look at Peter trapped in the gooseberry net. Wow. Will he get away? Let's continue reading and find out. Mr. McGregor came up with a sheave, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wiggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him. Peter rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in, but it had too much water in it. So the can had lots of water in it. What do you think happened to Peter? Did he get wet? But Mr. McGregor was after him in no time and tried to put his foot down on Peter. Peter jumped out the window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and so he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. He'd forgotten about Peter. What do you think? 3 plants. You see the 3 plant pots there? Should Peter have listened to his mother? Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp from sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the woods. Peter asked her to wait to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Oh, Peter, poor Peter. Look at the tears coming down. My. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was sitting there, staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail would twitch. You ever see a cat tail twitch? And as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. Look at that cat licking its whiskers. What do you think? Why? What do you think that cat is looking for? Maybe a meal of a fish in the pond? He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 skish. Peter scuttled underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeked over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Seems like Peter got away. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his jacket. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. Peter was very well during the evening. Let me say that again. Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea and gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon at bedtime was to be taken. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. So they had a good supper, and Peter had to drink chamomile tea. That is the end of the story. I hope that you enjoyed listening to the story, because I certainly enjoyed reading it to you. So until the next reading, listen to your parents, follow their instructions so that you don't have a consequence. Thank you for listening again, and see you next reading. Bye-bye.